Hi there, and welcome to another edition of The InEVitable. This is MotorTrend's podcast where we talk about the future of the automobile, where are we going, how are we going to get there, electrified cars that run on different types of fuel, cars that maybe drive themselves. And today we've got, I would say he's a pioneer in the field.
Very special guest.
Like very, very special guest. Ed, who is it?
Franz von Holzhausen. This is the chief designer, creative director, handsome, great hair, man of myth and legend.
What company does he work for?
Tesla.
Tesla. And he's been an employee for like forever.
15 years now, I guess.
Yeah, something like that,
yeah,
right?
So he's one of the last executives standing to be one of like in Elon's sort of like very tight group. Like everybody else, including one of the co-founders, has left. We're going to talk to him about everything he's doing and his history and hopefully get into all of it.
But mostly Bitcoin. Just kidding.
Right.
We're not going to mention that.
Or Twitter. Talk a little bit. Maybe you talk a little about Twitter. But yeah, it's Franz. He's a kind of a friend of the house. I don't want to. I'm really. There's a lot of pressure on this one.
I've never seen you this nervous. I've seen you go and talk to like a factory with 1,500 people, and you're like, I got to do that, but I'll be back. At this one, you've been like, whoa,
Well, Tesla is such a hot topic, and there's so many people on both sides. There's so many lovers, so many haters, and I'm sure we're going to disappoint like more greater than 50% of both because we're just not going to be able to get to everything Franz has done in his career. But we're going to try.
Yeah,
so,
and that's a great point. He has actually a very interesting career before Tesla, and then obviously, I would say has created one of the most historic cars of all time. Like imagine that designing the Model S. Like that's a touchstone, foundational, transitional. You know, you think Volkswagen Bug and Model T, and really the Model S.
Yeah, really the first game-changing electric vehicle, and also will go down in history as the very first software-defined vehicle, I think. Then that's this thing I'm going to be pushing and ask him about. But without further ado, it's a long one. It's a good one. Let's bring on Franz von Holzhausen.
We're here with, Ed, pronounce it right.
Franz von Holzhausen, thank you so much for joining us. I got the thumbs up. Taking time out of your busy day. This should be a good one. We got lots of history and lots of things to talk about.
But I have a question, and I thought this up. I was driving to pick up my kid from school yesterday, and just short drive, just Glendale to Pasadena, and like just
short drive could take like 2 hours.
No, it's only like 15 minutes, not bad. But I'm sitting there and I'm just surrounded by your cars, and it's just I think the Model 3 just became the best-selling car in California. Model Y. And my question to you is, are you sick of looking at your own cars? Because of how ubiquitous they are in California, where you live.
Well, it's interesting. In the early days, way back when, I thought it would be amazing if we ever got to the point where there were more Teslas on the road than a Prius. Because when we started, Prius was kind of the EV, or was the sustainable direction that people could go.
Right.
It was the only thing, right? And it seemed like a target that was insurmountable. It's just Prius everywhere. Didn't really like looking at them.
Right.
So it's great now to see that we've definitely managed to overcome that. And at least I appreciate looking at them versus a Prius.
Do you wish you had
read between the lines?
I got you. I hear.
Do you wish you had made more colors, or there were more colors available? Because I mean, every single one in LA is
red, black, white.
Yeah, black or white, really.
Well, it's interesting. I've always said that we've created a blank canvas for customers to do what they want with a car, and I see quite a bit of wraps. I see quite a bit of personalization, which is fantastic. I mean, I think you purchase something, and we don't have to. We're never going to be able to provide the right color for you or anybody else. If we provide enough good colors, then they can go and tune it as they want. So
you have to. I'm just riffing here because you have to have seen some terrible.
I've seen some terrible
modifications to your vehicle. The one that gets me, and it's funny because it's usually it's not a bad idea. It's just terribly executed. A lot of people like to spell Tesla out on the back.
Yes,
which I think is like all the manufacturers now are going that direction. That's like the premium move is to like Lexus
huge font.
took the L badge off and now they're going to spell Lexus across the back. Or the Nissan Pathfinder spells Pathfinder. That's like a really long word.
No, I've had this talk. Aston Martin. I was talking with Eric Reichman, and I'm like, why are you spelling out Aston in like headline font?
Right.
And he basically just said there are certain markets, China, where you have to do it. It's just like that's the thing.
I mean, in the early days, and I think still even now, people don't know necessarily our brand. We're new, and some people see the cars on the road and they may not know what the T badge is. So we've always spelled out the word mark on the back of the car. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, I think one of the prototypes that we released, maybe Model 3, we had spelled out Tesla on the back, didn't have the T, and I kind of took that idea and did it personally on my own personal car. And some aftermarket company, I don't remember the name of it, picked it up, and now it's the Franz edition Tesla letters that you can get.
That's hilarious.
And so you can do it. You can personalize your car that way too.
Interesting.
Very good. Well, we should go back through your history a little bit because people should know that you're just where you come from. And
sure.
I think does it start at Art Center or does it start before
Syracuse?
Yeah, I went to Syracuse for a couple of years.
Oh.
I grew up in the East Coast.
Whereabouts?
In Connecticut.
Okay.
My father's a product and graphic and marketing. He's a designer, had his own firm. So I kind of grew up in a design household.
Right.
And, after school went and worked in the shop or, learned how to draw, all these things. And it was great experience just to kind of be around innovative design and new directions.
Did you arrange your records alphabetically, or did he make you color code them? No, okay. I grew up with some design kids, so.
But I think that was kind of a starting point. And oddly enough, there was an intern while I was there, who from Art Center, and he did these amazing illustrations. I don't know if you know these like World War II history books of airplanes and things like that. And they have these cutaway views and these amazing illustrations of the airplanes. And that's what he was doing. So he would work, during the day, and then after hours he would just work on these like crazy airplanes. And I was just fascinated by that. And so kind of befriended him, watched him, tried to learn from him. And then he started teaching me how to like draw circles and like get into the car thing. And I kind of knew I love cars and growing up but I didn't know like the path. I didn't know what you could do with it. I didn't.
This is the theme too, because we've had everyone on here from Freeman Thomas to
Derek
Ralph Jenkins, and they all sort of say like, I didn't know there was a way to professionally design. Like no one knows that. Yeah. It's this weird secret that you can make a living designing and drawing and modeling cars.
But so let's pause and ask you though, how when you say you were into cars, like. You now are a judge at Pebble Beach, like on this grand scale of like you were kind of into cars, or like against that group, like you were not. Like, what were your influences? Like high school, you had car posters on your wall, or your dad had a cool car, your mom dressed cool.
I love the the Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsches. Had the the turbo 930. The Testarossa was amazing. Countach.
Yeah, those are exactly. I still have that poster where it's
exactly
the three of them decisions.
And this guy he came from the school art center, and he was learning how to do this, and I was just fascinated by that. So I started like just hanging out with him and wasting all his time, asking questions and asking him to teach me. He left, went back to art center, and I carried on, and was kind of at this point where I had to figure out like, how do I pursue this? Do I go to art center, or do I just like try to get a degree in something where I had a safety valve, in a way. So I went to Syracuse. They had a portfolio review day. All these schools came in, and you bring your portfolio, and I had to like put a bunch of cars and design stuff. And I went up there and I showed my portfolio to the art center team because they were there, and they're like, "Yeah, you're super young." They said, "Go to a college, go to like get a couple things under your belt, and then come because you're 18. Average, starting age at art center is 21, 22, something like that, and it's not a normal school. Get a few things under your belt." And
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't like my portfolio. That's kind of what I assumed. So I did that. I went to Syracuse for 2 years, and
But in the back of your head, were you like, I do want to get to this weird
absolutely.
place in California?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I kept, researching it and trying to figure it out. And I kind of thought like maybe I could, get a few things under my belt, like I said, and then transfer out there. In the meantime, my father was, I think he was head of IDSA or something, the industrial design program.
Right.
Yeah. And on the East Coast, and he had gone out to Art Center to do some speech. And I'm in my dorm room at Syracuse, and he calls me and he's like, "You got to get out here. This is amazing. It's unbelievable." And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Dad, I know.
Yeah, I've tried, Dad.
To put my beer down,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so we organized a trip to go out, and I went out, toured the school, and was just blown away. You go through, as a young aspiring designer, you go through the halls and the rooms, and you see the work that these students are doing, and it's just mind-boggling. It's just so far ahead of what I could have imagined.
Right.
And I was daunted and just thought, my gosh, this is
Big
I have
leagues.
to figure out how to go here, but like scared shitless. Like I don't know if I can do this. And so I just remember doing the tour, and at the end of the day, they the person who was touring went back and they said, we have one spot left starting this fall. This is like in the spring, starting this fall, and if you want it, we need to have a check by 5:00.
Wow. All right.
So here I'm with my dad. We're standing outside the steps. I have like half an hour to decide like the future of my career. Do I do this or not? Because it's a big jump. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know anything about LA.
When you were at Syracuse, real quick, not to interrupt the story too much, but were you thinking car design or just industrial design in general?
I was trying to figure out how to like work into the industrial design program as much like automotive, transportation, car things as possible. It's pretty regimented. In the early years, it's like you're kind of doing the basic 101 stuff, but everything I did was trying to like shoehorn in something automotive related, and it kind of didn't work. It worked and it didn't. There was nobody there that knew automobiles, so I was not getting any kind of help. And so I kind of just made the decision that afternoon. I'm just gonna pull the plug on Syracuse and come out to LA. And
So you were already accepted at that point, and they were just...
They basically said, they looked at my portfolio, walked me around, said, "We have one spot left. It's yours if you want it, but we need a check by today."
That's such a weird thing for a school to say, right? We need cash on the barrel.
And, just like, I had made it out here, kind of said, let's just do it. Right. So thankfully my dad wrote a check. And
Right. Okay.
Who... Art Center is and with respect to the other schools, and Ralph Gilles is a proponent of one of the other big ones. It is kind of like Harvard is the Art Center of general education, right? Any notable classmates? Who did you go in with? Anybody we might know that?
Well, I remember not necessarily classmates, but people around me in the different, because you go through Art Center and it's there's 8 terms, and you kind of like pick and choose how you do it. You do internships. You can kind of go 1 or 2, 3 terms in a row, do an internship. So people were coming in and out of your class. But I remember in the early days, people like Chip Foose, I remember his grad show and the models he would make, and just the work that he did was, he was 1 or 2 or 3 terms ahead of me, depending. And I was just blown away, just by the detail, the level of execution that he did, and the craftsmanship of his models were just off the charts. Like, because you're there trying to figure out how to do everything with a shop that they provide. He's got his own shop on the side with some professionals that are helping him, and like it definitely was inspiring, because then you're trying to figure out how do you equal that, because it's all like one-upmanship. And
wait, was he? You feel a lot younger than Chip. Was that like a graduate level thing? Or was he just attending class for fun? That was his?
Yeah.
Are you guys? You're not that close in age, are you?
I don't know how old he is, but Probably.
Sorry to Chip. I just feel like, well, he's been doing hot rods for such a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe he's part of that. I associate him with that generation. I do not. So that's
Thank you.
That's
Sorry, Chip.
yeah, that's wild.
I mean, and it's great because he stayed in SoCal, and I've followed his career and just always been impressed by how he's been able to continue to keep it up and keep moving the industry and being super creative and, in kind of a niche area.
Very niche.
Really transforming kind of a hot rod culture into our generation, this new generation.
Right.
So yeah, but also just real quick, just like his craftsmanship, his modeling ability, his finished products look like prototypes. I mean, they're amazing. Yeah,
super amazing. And he's never lost that touch.
Yeah.
So what's your killer move? Like I mean, we've talked to some different designers, and I'm always trying to figure out like what is the thing. Like some guys are. I mean, everybody come out of Art Center, you know how to draw a car, and you can sketch or whatever, but part of it, as my understanding is, Art Center teaches you how to provide the context, sell it, if you will, or come up with like the whole package. Like Freeman told us, like it wasn't necessarily the best, sketch artist or draw. There were other guys in the team that could draw things better, but he could kind of put all the things together and the people together at a high level. If you could be so bold and brag a little bit, like, are you like awesome with in ink, or are you like it's your salesman? I've seen a couple of your presentations. You're really good at that, but like, what do you think it is?
I mean, I was able to draw. I came into Art Center, with a pretty long history of being able to like formulate my ideas, figure out how to get them onto paper. Starting in my dad's office and working with just regular designers. So just being able to extract the things that are bouncing around in your head and put those into a way that you can see what they are, visualize them, and then turn that into a 3D thing. So like the process of going from your head to sketch to a model, it's not easy. And a lot of people really struggle between they're amazing artists, but then they struggle to turn that art into a product. Mm. And I think I was pretty good at actually doing a little bit of both. I learned a lot from a lot of the people around. Art Center is interesting. They set up these programs and they have really great teachers, but I actually found myself learning more from the students around me and the doors that they opened that allow you to go to internships and professional studios and learn from the best people.
Right.
And I came away always so invigorated after an internship somewhere else. I was fortunate enough to be. Art Center had a sister school in Europe,
right?
In Vevey.
Yeah, right.
So I went there.
We had Henrik Fisker on. He exclusively went there, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing. It didn't last for very long.
Right.
But it's an insane location. And as a poor, starving student, going to Montreux and in Switzerland is not an easy place to survive. But it opened a lot of doors. And I was doing a project for Volkswagen. All the heads of Volkswagen came to the presentation, and they took me aside after the presentation, and I just remember this one conversation. It started in German. This guy was speaking to me for probably 10 minutes. I was trying to like cut in like no,
Nein sprechen Sie Deutsch.
German name, but I don't really speak German that well. I don't understand what you're saying, and basically the gist of it was like, come. We want to sponsor you.
And what year was this?
I think it was in my 6th term, and this was like 1991 time frame.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I was in Switzerland during the first Gulf War, and I remember like standing outside next to the Lake Geneva with the contrails of all the bombers going overhead, and it was super eerie. Whoa. And then CNN came online, and there was a couple people. Some of my friends had TVs and sit and watch CNN, and I'm thinking, wow, this is crazy. What's going to happen with the world? Yeah, at least I'm in Switzerland because it's fairly neutral.
Yeah, Wolf Blitzer 24 hours a day, if I remember correctly. Yeah, right. Schwarzkopf.
But it was an amazing opportunity to learn a different type of design discipline, where I felt like like in America, it was very flamboyant in a way, the design, and there's a pragmatic sense to
Like
designing in Europe.
Like that was a Bauhaus was coming back to Volkswagen a little bit at the time.
I mean, I joined Volkswagen right after Art Center with Freeman, with Jay Mays, Craig Durfee, that team. And Jay was really just bringing this idea of Bauhaus to Volkswagen. It didn't really exist until he started doing that. And I was just right time, right place, fortunate to be with that team and, work on Concept 1, the new Beetle, and then everything kind of sprang from there.
We want to talk about that, but did you intern anywhere else in your time at Art Center?
I interned at Ford, yeah.
Oh,
you did? Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the truck studio. And there was some amazing talent in that.
Who was over?
Like Camilo Pardo. Who was great at trucks, but ended up being,
Ford GT.
Yeah, he did the second gen Ford GT, which is still one of the greatest production cars.
And I don't know if Camilo's an interesting kind of crazy, great guy, amazing designer, but he's always been that way.
Yeah. We heard about his parties, right?
I went to one of his parties.
He introduced me to the whole Detroit underground scene, and it was very fascinating.
Cool. Who was head of the studio then at Ford? Like top of design?
Gosh, I can't remember.
Okay. What's that era? That would have been 80, late 80s, right?
It was
90s.
80,
I think it was
90.
1990, yeah.
Okay. Anyways, we'll come back. So you did Ford. Just last question, because I'm trying to get your understanding. With your dad, you said when you worked at his company, what were some of the kind of projects that he was designing? Like, is this?
I remember working on like ski graphics. We did like things like staplers. They did a lot of Stanley tools. So doing a lot of like ergonomic studies and how to get hand tools. And this is kind of before lithium-ion batteries, so trying to figure out how do you organize cables and things like that.
Oh, right, yeah.
So industrial design.
Yeah, a lot of industrial
design.
stuff.
Okay.
They had like projects with Hasbro, so they did a lot of packaging and toy work and design stuff.
Oh, that sounds wild. So you had a lot
of all over the map.
All over, like a very broad sort of design. Training. Okay, very cool.
So done with Art Center, you wind up at Volkswagen Group.
Yeah, right away. And the studio in Simi Valley had just started.
Right.
And so I was over there with Hall of Fame crew.
Right.
Just, industry changing.
And was
names.
Derek Jenkins there at that point?
Derek was actually an intern.
Okay.
I think he interned with me, and I was kind of his peer. So, but he after the internship, he started with us as well.
So that really is a Hall of Fame. I mean, right?
I think back and I'm like, man, I was like so fortunate to be around there. And, I worked with Freeman every day. Actually, Freeman was one of my teachers at Art Center. And
right.
So, I felt like Freeman at school, Freeman at work for 8 years, kept following him. But he's great. And he's, he's one of these guys that will kind of walk by, look over your shoulder and say, hey, that's amazing, but what if you did like this? And he'd like take your drawing and sketch right on top of it, or overlay it and come up with another idea. And he's kind of just always thinking like that, and always trying to progress an idea and push it, and kind of you need that as a designer too. You need to be pushed and pushed, and because it's easy to fall into some level of complacency if you're not constantly just challenging yourself. And he was great at just doing that, automatically.
Were you intimidated going to work with Jay Mays and Freeman, like right out of school?
Yeah, I knew these guys were like amazing. Like, I was, oddly enough, I remember being not so intimidated by Freeman because I knew him and I had him.
And he's a nice guy. Nicest guy in the world, yeah.
But really intimidated by Jay, just because of the talent level, and just like did not want to put a foot wrong. Was always like trying to over prepare and make sure that everything was great, and he was such a great charismatic guy and super helpful along the way too.
Did you ever? Were you? Because that's the Simi Valley. What was it? Pacifica Studios. Is that what it was called?
It was in Simi Valley.
Oh, okay. It wasn't the name of it something? I don't even know. Okay, whatever.
California Design Center.
Did you face any like hardcore German? Did you ever have to present like to the mothership and get any?
Yeah, very often we would have like Barkus would come over. We actually had his son in the studio for a little while too, so that was pretty challenging. And I think on a semi-annual basis, we had the team from Germany coming over, or we would go over. I remember working on a project and having to present it to Piech which was
Tell us about that.
intimidating to say the least, because you hear the stories, and we heard the inside stories, or he would just line everybody up and like, if you can't do it, your replacement will, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
But it was a cool project. It was a Polo based little roadster. And he was really curious about it. So it ended up not going anywhere, and I ended up leaving VW shortly after that. But
And how long were you at Volkswagen?
a total of 8 years.
And what did you work on that had made it to production?
We worked on. I actually spent quite a bit of time over in Germany working on the T4 bus.
Okay.
And then out of that, came back to the studio and started the microbus project.
Oh yeah, Derek was like one of our first guests, and we were kind of at the time running out of time. Don't ask, but he started talking about like microbus and like
I handed him my project, and he took it and ran with it.
So what tell us about microbus, because I know they're coming out with that one, but
tell us what you think about ID Buzz.
Yeah, but I loved what you guys were up to with that. that was there's a couple concept cars.
It's such an iconic car, and we had done the concept one New Beetle basically, and just revitalized the icon of pretty much all automotive icons. And we thought like the bus is a perfect opportunity as well. Like the minivan stigma was so bad. The microbus was actually really cool, but super challenging to do it in a kind of modern, safe way.
Right.
And at that time, VW was really about their architecture and platform strategies, and how do you take, like what I had just worked on was, this very boxy bus, and how do you take that and add a lot of character and style and bring back the feeling of the microbus. So again, just taking that kind of Bauhaus language that we learned from Jay. Jay had moved on, but continuing that spirit and the design language that we were establishing, and trying to make a bus out of it.
I just think that was such a missed opportunity. Derek kind of got into the reasons why it never made production, but like,
it's tough. Like the original one, you're sitting over the wheel, and your feet are kind of on the bumper.
Yeah,
your feet are the crash, the crumple zones.
Right?
And I know I know there was a slight recession.
Maintaining that kind of proportion is really challenging.
Sure.
In kind of today's automotive environment.
As a designer, though, this is a period of time early in your career, but do you like that kind of constraint, or the baggage associated? Would you have preferred to do like a total clean sheet, multi-passenger van type vehicle without having to sort of pay homage to the?
Well, I had just kind of done, the continuation of their vans, and it was more of a utility. This is much more of a life. That was a lifestyle vehicle.
Okay.
And so the ability to bring character to the space and really have fun with it was, in my mind, that was awesome. And I think the challenging part of it was how do you capture the original magic of that form in a much more modern, safe vehicle where the occupant has to be now behind the wheel, not sitting on top of it. The feet are still even almost behind the wheel, and then you have like football field worth of space between you and the front end of the car,
right.
And the windshield, and it just makes it slightly awkward. So maintaining that proportion was, I think, a challenge. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Volkswagen. So then you move on to General Motors.
Yeah. So a few of the people that I was working with at VW, we kind of left. Started a new studio in North Hollywood for GM. They hadn't shut down their previous one and wanted to start it back up. I had been 8 years at VW, thought it was, I was young and naive, thought I had done all I could do there. They were on a good trajectory. And here's GM, who I thought, man, they could use a little design help. They have plenty of amazing designers, but at the time it just felt like I could take the things that I learned from these great people that were around me, and hopefully apply it to a brand where I felt like maybe they needed some help.
Were you recruited out of VW, or was that?
It wasn't really recruiting. It was just kind of I don't remember. Like it just kind of happened. Frank Sacedo was I think they had contacted him to start the studio because he had closed down the previous one. And by that time, Freeman had left, Jay had left, Craig had left. I mean, it was kind of the original team was broken up.
Right.
And Frank said, "Hey, come start this new thing." You know.
And then I've long heard this is true, but if I'm wrong, correct me. But you did the Solstice, the Pontiac Solstice, and the show car.
Yep.
So, like the microbus, I mean, there's if there's a few show cars in my life of that like have just blown me away, and just that one I still think is one of the most beautiful concepts I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Like, just I remember, and at the time magazines, and it just popped, and then I remember it was whatever magazine it was in, probably Car and Driver, and they're gonna build it, and I was like, no way, like the GM will never do this, like
I kind of felt the same way.
Yeah. So could you? I mean, and again, if you're listening, Google. The Solstice concept, which was just and it was started
as a Pontiac concept, right? Because it ultimately became two vehicles.
Well,
three
vehicles.
You have to kind of rewind a little
What
bit.
is the story? Tell us everything.
The story, from my recollection, is in the summer of whatever year that was, 90 or 2000.
2000 is when you went. That's what
so it's 2003, maybe, I think. Bob Lutz started at GM,
right?
And we all were like awaiting his kind of arrival and like what's going to happen and how's this going to play out.
Cigars for all.
Yeah, exactly. Helicopter rides and cigars, right? And it was just like in a weird sort of way. I just remember feeling like this is going to be great for GM, great for GM design,
product,
an opportunity to shake it up and like start fresh, and we're poised to do that. We just started this California studio. We had a bunch of young new talent. We were trying to like impose a little bit of a different design direction than what was happening. Somewhat naive, but so Lutz started, and I remember there was like a call to action where he wanted this new product that was young and energetic and really incredibly affordable. So, and he wanted to appeal to the youth, like. GM is an old crowd. We wanted to like, freshen up, make a young product and get people excited about the brand again. GM as a whole. And it wasn't really a specific nameplate at that point. So we set out like, sketch on this program and we're going to pick it. So everybody it was 2-week like sketch blitz of this. The idea was kind of around this maybe open roadster concept, youthful. The Miata at the time was really successful and just had this kind of like youthful aura and fun to drive, not too expensive. So we were kind of following that idea and submitted just as designer, like a young designer there, submitted sketches, and they apparently had gone through this kind of willowing funnel process, and ultimately Bob liked my sketch. Out of I don't know how many thousands of other people.
But had you sketched it with a particular brand in mind? Did they say
at the time? It was actually I was sketching it as a Chevy,
and
it was like an affordable Corvette.
Interesting.
So the Corvette was here. Try to do something that could get you into like a Corvette brand as a
Camaro
smaller.
was dormant at the time.
Yeah, but I remember seeing a lot of remember the 50s Nomad. I saw like a lot of like that kind of energy.
Yeah, there was
Corvair.
Wayne Cherry was kind of he loved the idea of bringing back a lot of these like classic GM products that had come up through the years and trying to bring them back in a modern way. And my idea was just. There's an opportunity maybe for a younger generation to get into the Corvette kind of brand, have this product, and then aspire for the bigger, more powerful one, and maybe work their way to that. So that's where my headspace was, and I don't know that Bob was so bought into that, but he just thought the sketch was cool.
I mean, it was flat out gorgeous. I mean, it was just a gorgeous.
But it actually wasn't even it wasn't really the Solstice at that point. It was we kind of massaged it pretty quickly, but that was late summer, and I remember I think being up at the Historics and having walked around the paddock and just being really inspired by like cheetahs and some of these classic early 70s, but actually really late 60s classic proportion cars and like the Ferraris and everything. And in my mind, I was like, how do we capture that spirit again? Because it didn't exist. Like there was nothing like it. Miata was close from the Elan, but it just didn't. There was nothing American that was doing that.
And it was a coupe initially, right?
Yeah, I mean, I designed it as a convertible, but then thought, wow, this would be a really cool coupe as well. So through the process, that fall, I moved to Detroit, and we basically sequestered a small little team in an unused part of the tech center in a studio that wasn't being used. They actually put guards at the doors because they just wanted to keep this a top secret project. And there was a checklist of few names that you could get in the door. We very quickly it turned into a Pontiac. So we had to figure out how to take like the idea from that I originally had and turn it into a Pontiac. And I remember spending some really fascinating time with Wayne Cherry and just picking his brain about his knowledge and everything. And I'm still a young designer. He's like God at GM at that
Wayne
point.
Cherry,
And there's like one afternoon, it's autumn, Sunday afternoon, it's quiet in the whole space, and I'm just working away on the back of the car and in the clay model, and I look around and there's Wayne sitting on the plate next to me. Just, hey, let's figure this out, kind of a thing. And it was really a cool moment. But yeah, we just literally like Wayne, Bob would come in, it was his project, give us a little guidance, and we had from that September, October timeframe until the auto show in January, early January, to get this idea, and it had to be running.
Yeah.
And so I remember we were just flat out, 24/7, like every day, working on this thing. And I had like in the process of it, I was like, this car would be amazing as a coupe as well. So we designed up the coupe, and we made a really quick model of it. And I remember Bob was flying in from somewhere. And so we actually took the model to the hangar where his plane was going to land and let him come out and see it. And he's like, that's so cool, but we really need a convertible. And he said, but we can actually show both. So that's where we ended up at the auto show, showing both the coupe and the convertible. And we went on to actually design the convertible and create a hardtop for it. And I think they made like 1,000.
Yeah.
So, what's Wayne Cherry's superpower, if you will? Like we had him as a judge for Car of the Year, and I just remember like in quiet moments, you just sit around and sketch awesome cars all day long. But that was after he retired. Like you were with him at like sort of his peak. He
was a historian. Like his brain is like an encyclopedia of automotive history, and just like the nuances of design through all these cars. And I think he was just good at being able to take that history that he knew and try to figure out how to put it into a new car. But he was also a perfectionist. So he would just come to every project. I remember, the Cadillac 16, he was just like, every detail was important.
Did you work on the 16?
No, I did not.
Okay.
But I remember I was so focused on Solstice and Sky at the time. And I remember, I think that you mentioned the Nomad. I think that concept car was there, and like a week away from the auto show, he didn't like the design of the wheels. And so he had like the team come in. He asked me to like we need a new wheel. This is a week to design and create a wheel to go on a prototype that has to drive around. Like just he didn't care. It had to be better.
Right.
So like a hard ass, or like just like driven.
Driven. Yeah, and I think some people took it as being a hard ass. It just depends, I don't know.
From the right place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, my impression, we only worked with them. Actually, it was the year that the Model S was Car of the Year. He was one of the judges, but he was just like, I couldn't believe someone that nice and gentle. He was I found him to be a very gentle guy. Could rise to such a high position at General Motors. I mean, he just seemed like a kind.
I don't know his the path that took him there, but I think he's a perfectionist, and I think he just wanted everything to be perfect. And in a way, I have a little bit of that in me too. Like you kind of don't let things get in your way. You know, you just kind of knock everything over to try to get to that perfection.
Okay, so GM, and then after GM,
Well,
Mazda.
hang on. We should
move it
I
along.
know.
Yeah.
But while you were at, so you went from VW to GM, and you mentioned Cadillac 16 just now. Did you ever run into Sangyup Lee?
Yeah.
Because he was there doing, probably at the time you left, he was already starting on Camaro.
Yeah, he was
doing
doing. He did Corvette with Wayne Cherry, and then Camaro.
Camaro might have just started to happen when I was leaving. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you went to Mazda.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but I was slightly disenfranchised with the whole GM experience.
So was Lutz. Yeah.
After having, I spent 3 years in Warren at the tech center and realized that what we had done with the Solstice and the Sky, because we worked on Sky as well,
Saturn Sky,
was going to be a really just once in a lifetime situation that happened there. We had kind of a handpicked team, pretty much sequestered from all the other BS that happened within the company, and I just didn't see that kind of following into the next project or just the next set, and so I just like.
Why?
I don't know.
I mean, was it
just a massive company? You could see like the content. I don't know. It was just a lot of negativity from everybody else that we were
jealousy?
Like special. I don't know, and kind of it just got somewhat unbearable.
Interesting.
I mean, so I actually wanted to leave GM and kind of to that point maybe even the industry.
And it was, GM, I worked for the software company in the 90s that we were working for GM's legal department in Michigan, and I spent about a year in Detroit. And it's just a legal department. I was like, how does anything even happen? Because it was just the bureaucracy. Yeah. Like I remember,
I don't want to bash on it, but that's just my personal opinion.
It's a huge bureaucracy,
of kind of what I saw, and I just didn't see, like we had created something really special, and it was a great way to work, and it was actually the right thing to do for the product, and I think the Solstice and the Sky kind of happened because of that special thing, and they are somewhat unique, in
something doesn't make sense though, because all of that, I believe you when you say that, and history would say that was a critical success, right? When it came out, that was a home run.
Yeah. Design-wise, it had mechanical.
No. Design was purely because by the time it actually made it to production, you were already gone. So we can talk about that, right? So critically, this thing comes out at the Detroit show. It's a hit, and this is one of these handful of concept cars where, at least the story is that we hear on the media side is, build it like this, don't change a thing, right? And that's kind of how it came out. Now, when it did come out, there are all sorts of, why is this the switch back here? Like, it doesn't drive very well.
It's weird cost cutting.
That was the challenge. Like, how do you make something all new, super affordable? And we were tasked with using kind of the parts bin of GM.
Right, you're using Trailblazer
the
indicators for the rear lights or whatever.
Yeah, the rear lights are from an Envoy, and it's like the HVAC is from a Hummer maybe, and just like buttons and switches and fog lights from everywhere.
Is that the soul crushing part that you're like after the success of the show?
No, I think that's the challenge of like trying to make something great despite the things that you're that are put in front of you, and I actually quite relish that. I think good designers can figure out how to work through those things and do something with kind of maybe not the most pure thing. I think the challenge was just the culture, the overall like seeing how all the other programs worked, seeing like what I would get injected back into from my colleagues and from kind of how things worked on their other side, and also like just the bureaucracy was really incredible.
Yeah.
There was actually quite a few people that didn't want that project to be super successful.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, I think we should move on. Yeah.
Mazda. Quick. I want to get to Tesla, but Mazda, you were there.
Yeah. I mean, I met Maury actually in Detroit.
Maury Callum.
And I was actually, maybe overly cavalier because I was just kind of done with the GM thing and I just wanted to get back to LA and travel or just do something else. And I met Maury and there's this, little studio down in Irvine from Mazda, and they had done the Miata and the RX-7 kind of came out of there, and
Or RX-8, yeah.
Yeah, I think the RX-7 actually,
was
original
it?
design was from there. And, but nothing had happened since then.
Okay.
And Maury wanted to like turn it into something. And so he said, hey, come lead this group. It was like 30 people total or something. It was a small group. And I just remember I was telling my family and friends and stuff. I was like, I'm leaving GM and I'm going somewhere else. Take a guess where. Like, Porsche, like,
Right.
Nobody guessed Mazda.
Nobody guessed Mazda. It was like, that's how far at that time Mazda was off people's radar. And I said Mazda, and like, oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, and this is like 2006,
2005.
Yeah, okay. So that was like the third gen Miata era.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I think, we came in and like had some vision of just like getting the kind of fun character that is the kind of drive characteristic of a Miata or of a Mazda in general, and turning that, getting a language that felt like it belonged to the experience.
Right.
And that language was Nagare, right?
Yeah, well, that was the idea. Like, take this Nagare concept, the motion of the wind, or air, and turn it into a design language. And we just went for it.
Yes.
Yeah,
and Maury was like wide open to that, and which was great because, I think we were looking for a change, and the brand needed a change. There's some really cool elements about Mazda that people didn't really understand, but on any given weekend, 50% of any car raced is either powered by or is a Mazda.
Yeah.
Right. And so their grassroots kind of racing program was insane.
Yep.
And there was a period where if you had a comparison test of like, family sedans or whatever, the Mazda would win every time. It was always the best to drive,
Yeah, just not on anybody's radar.
And they were just, they had anonymous looks.
Yeah.
So. Which you changed, and we can move quickly through it, but it is one of my favorite concept cars of all time, particularly because it ran really fast.
The Solstice? Oh
no, the Ferrari.
The Ferrari.
Oh
right?
yeah,
which was based off of an like the ALMS. It's a Courage chassis.
Courage chassis
from the year prior, and somebody had the bright idea of like, well, let's just put that whole thing, a new body on top, and.
Yeah, it was kind of an idea that I had to like, how do we extract this thing that we just talked about, this kind of race weekend, this grassroots thing, and turn it into something that would get people really inspired at more like a premium level, where we really take the racing program and make it like a street car out of it. So the original idea was take a race car and figure out how to make a streetable version of it. And if you remember the early days of the Ferrari, there was a race version and then there was a street version that we did. We only made one car, but that was the concept, and it was really trying to extract that and then also inject some level of sustainability into it. And so I was really pushing for the best we could do at the time was 100% ethanol based. We took a three-rotor.
Three-rotor running on ethanol.
Running on pure ethanol. And it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But it was as kind of sustainable and environmentally friendly kind of concept as we could do
at the time. Yeah.
The press launch was wild. It was Laguna Seca because it was Mazda Raceway
you were
Laguna
there,
Seca at the time. Yeah, and Brian actually knows the PR person at the time. Sorry, a photographer who's in the room. Anyways, the idea apparently was we were supposed to be allowed to drive the car, and then somebody said that's a terrible idea. so we got ride-alongs, and that Courage chassis is not really built for two people. You were like sitting on this like little jump seat next to, I forgot who the driver was, but we were like this.
I want to say Ben. It was Ben something.
Yeah, but it was. I remember just like the one hot flyer around the track, and it was so loud. And it's like a spaceship. You're in this cockpit environment. The thing was badass. Had an unfortunate end though, right? Burned down.
And I had just left Mazda, and I think a few weeks later, so maybe it got sad and burned itself down.
Or maybe you killed it. No. All right. So let's move on now. So then after Mazda,
let's talk about how. So how did you move on? Who reached out, or how did you end up going to Tesla? What's that whole origin story of your move there?
I was hinting at like the only way for us to get sustainability into the product was kind of to do alternate fuel. We were already pioneering kind of like removing leather from interiors, and or if we had to use leather at Mazda, we were trying to get no tanning. The tanning process is really bad on leather, so
chromium, right? Yeah.
All the chromium, and trying to find ways to kind of be more sustainable.
And this is
really
this
a struggle.
is something
this is just personal
that you care
drive.
about. Okay.
Yeah, personal drive.
Great. Yeah.
But it was really hard. Their focus was on just doing what they do.
The bottom line, yeah,
exactly.
It's the machine, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then suppliers aren't going to play ball because it's just
it's expensive,
right. Right.
So we had these ideas of these alternate materials, but it's way too expensive to put it in at the time. So it was really tough. And I remember, I don't know, it was spring of 2008, maybe spring, reading like a Popular Mechanics or Popular Science article about this team that was taking lithium-ion batteries and putting them in a Lotus, and I thought, like, wow, this is amazing. This is actually really cool. But didn't know what to do with it. It was a great article, and it's just, somebody's trying to make a difference. And I got a call from a friend who I went to Syracuse with, who, while I was at GM, lived in Detroit, and we were kind of pals, and we had gone go-kart racing, did like some endurance go-kart race, and one of his buddies was there. And he actually was the guy who was working at Tesla. And apparently Elon had put out a thing like, hey, we need to internalize design. If anybody at the company knows anybody, send him my way.
Huh.
So he contacted my friend, who contacted me and said, I know you like where you are. It's great, but just, hey, this company, Tesla, is like looking for a designer. And I thought of you because this guy, Tom, remembered you and knew that you were doing great stuff through your career. And so then we kind of played phone tag, Elon and I, for a while. I had a conversation with him, and he's like, after the conversation was good. It was really intriguing. He's like, what are you doing now? I'm like, well, I'm at work. He's like, how quick can you get to El Segundo? And I was down in Irvine, so I was like, well, I'll drive up from Irvine. He's like, yeah, come by. So I went up and met him after the phone call the same day, and he gave me a quick tour of SpaceX, which was, just starting to ramp at that time. They hadn't put anything into orbit. And I just remember walking away thinking, my gosh, here's somebody who's going to put rockets into space. Car is actually not that hard, and his vision for the car and his sustainable direction and message is exactly what I'm looking for. So why not? And so we met a couple times, and I don't know, rest is kind of history.
Well, no, we want to hear it. But so you come away from that, you make the decision, I'm going to go to Tesla.
And then I played another one of those games with my family and friends, and they're all like, are you fucking crazy? Like, how could you leave your career to do something like that?
Well, what did you think in your heart of hearts at the time? Like, how long did you think that? Did you think like this is the rest of my career, or were you like, this will last a couple years and I'll move on?
I wanted it to be like the rest of my career. I thought,
really,
like, if this plays out, it's going to happen. Like, inevitably, it's just
Ed gets to hit his dumbbell. All right. Yeah,
it's going to happen. There's going to be a change.
Right.
And Elon is passionate and driven, and he's going to bend over and really try to make this work. And I thought, I can help him help that mission. I can make beautiful cars. I can help, like, do my part to help that kind of a mission along. And I thought, like, I have to go for it. And if it works, that'll be amazing. If it's ahead of its time, then I have a pretty good career. I could probably maybe get a job somewhere else.
Right.
Again,
Sure.
I didn't. It felt like, okay, it's a big step, but at the same time, like,
is it really?
Man, like, if you really kind of step off like that, you got to put 110% into it to make it work, and maybe it pays off, and it's the right thing to do for, like, my beliefs, for the world, for all the right reasons. And that's a massive driving factor, like.
So what we know where you were professionally, but personally at that time, right? Because you're married with kids.
Mm-hmm.
2008, you were
not married.
Oh, okay. All right. So this was not.
I was single. Yeah. Just, it was kind of like I didn't have. It was just me. Like, it's an opportunity to.
It makes it easier.
And it was SoCal.
Yeah.
Like, if I stayed at Mazda, I probably would have ended up in Japan. as like a career trajectory potentially.
Okay.
And, you know, I really enjoyed working with Lawrence Vandenecker. He was great, you know, just super supportive, and super talented designer as well, and great thinker, you know. And, you know, so I was stepping away from, you know, somebody that I really admired, and a team at Mazda that was great. They were super supportive of me. They let me kind of, you know, like take a lot of leash. But this was bigger, you know, the overall mission was bigger. The sustainability portion of it was bigger. And, you know, there was Prius, there was, you know, some of these like little startups that were around, and I thought like Elon's got the concept correct.
What made you think that? Did you like? Okay, couple questions on that. When you first talked to him, very first phone call, I guess it was. What was your first impression? Like that, you hang on the phone, you're like, this dude is,
you know, passionately driven. This has to happen. Wants to make it work. Believes in like good design is a great way to, you know, get the public aligned with you. Supportive of design. Maybe didn't know 100% how to get there, but knew like what he wanted, and how to communicate that. And I thought, hey, I can be the pen for that, you know.
Okay. But but you were sold on this through a series of conversations. But did you ever get to sit in something that they like a prototype or drive something?
I remember like during the process went up to San Jose, and in San Carlos they had like some shops, and they had, you know, this is before even the first Roadster was being delivered. So they had a bunch of Roadsters around. We would drive. We went. You know, Elon took me for a drive in them, and it's just like at that point, like, okay, this is real.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay.
This is real. Like my first drive in a Roadster was with Elon, and I just thought, yeah, this is going to change the world.
Okay.
That's what I was looking for. Do you know? Did he talk to any other designers, or?
I don't know.
Okay. And did he ever
sure.
tell you why he picked you? Was it because you were actually passionate about?
I think like we had similar design taste as we spoke about it, and I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
one day I should probably ask him.
Like name one. Like name one. When you say similar design taste, like, you know, this guy Elon famously owned a McLaren F1. Like, what else? When he talked to you about his vision, did he throw out any other like it should look like this or have this kind of feel to it, or like what were you?
Well, we talked a lot about like what is beautiful design and how like the power of good design. And I think, you know, great design brings people to it. Like good design, yeah, maybe. And we talked about like loving something, and the idea of if you love something, you're going to go and tell everybody about it because you're invested. You want them to be invested. If you like something, yeah, maybe you'll tell somebody, maybe you won't. But like getting to that point, and
so that was.
And you know, we talked about some of the projects that I had done. Like the Solstice was, you know, a beautiful car, and he was just he saw that and realized that we could take kind of like I understood how to get beauty out of something really challenging.
Interesting.
And that was from day one. The idea that if you really are into something you own, you're going to evangelize for it. Essentially, like he had that vision.
Yeah. I mean, he was all in, full. Like there was no doubt. Like there was no talk about hybrid or anything like that.
Oh, I don't even mean the electric part. I mean the design angle. Like we've got to make a beautiful car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, so that must have been great.
Yeah, and you know he was there constantly, along for the ride. He was invested in it. We pushed each other. We talked about things. We spent a lot of time just talking about the Model S and how do we, like, do we do something on the front end for like a grill or not? Like all those things we like hemmed and hawed about. How do we take innovation? Like how do we take innovation beyond the norm and design that into the product?
Can we go granular on the grill, because it is really interesting that, you know, the Model S launched with essentially a fake grill, and then after a couple of years you removed it. So like what was like
during the development process of the Model S, you know, we still needed cooling in the front end, and the radiator was actually quite big. And so we if you recall in the prototype, we had like inlets in the kind of grill area that were feeding a radiator. And through the process, I think we had already like kicked off tooling for stuff, and we were able to actually shrink the radiator and get just bottom feeding to happen. And so then we didn't need air inlets on the top. We were able to blank it out. And it also was, somewhat of an idea to carry the brand and kind of be a little bit of a showpiece to have like a premium feel to the car, and not to feel overly sporty.
Was it also to feel somewhat familiar to somebody who,
a little bit,
like, just to remind them?
There's a familiarity.
You were conscious of
there's like a conscious familiarity about the Model S, I think.
Okay. Because you didn't, because obviously, like what we're looking at.
But it
now,
really started from a function perspective. We needed air in the front.
Okay.
And through the course of the program, we were able to improve that. And we eventually caught up to that.
And then what was, so there was a decision like, all right, let's get rid of this.
We didn't need it, so
grill.
let's get rid of the grill. And
Okay.
so we wanted to do it way sooner than we actually did, but we had to wait for that time. We were just trying to launch the car and like changes kind of.
Right.
Wait
Slow
for
down.
the tooling to be amortized, and then you can do new tooling. Right? I don't know. So you joined in 2008. You were fully on board. Roadster was coming out.
I mean, you have
around
to
that time.
remember, 2008 was a pretty rough year.
Yes.
Yeah.
2009 following, and
Was a
so
rough
I thought
year,
wow, it could be, this could be really short.
Okay.
So okay, yeah, because I was there in El Segundo at SpaceX 2009 when you brought out the prototype, and it was just crazy. Again, we all walk in and it's like there's this Bond villain with his rockets and he's gonna have this electric sedan.
Cool setup.
It was it was pretty impressive, but I don't know. Everyone's takeaway was kind of like, this will never happen. This is vapor. And in fact, I mean, I've told this story 1,000 times, but when we years later, it was November of 12 with the Model S, right. When we voted it unanimously, which I don't think has happened before since Car of the Year, 11 hands go up. And then I said, anyone, if you've ever said personally or professionally that this car that we just voted Car of the Year is vaporware, put your hand up. And, including Wayne Cherry, 10 hands went up. And then his didn't. And you said something like, well, my mom said if I have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. And
I don't remember that, but okay.
I remember that. Yeah. Brian was there. It was a, so you roll this thing out as this early prototype in 2009. You'd only been there a year.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how much of that had already been underway? The sedan, the second production vehicle.
Model S.
Model S.
Yeah, Model S. Yes.
What do you mean?
Like when you got there in 2008,
was there a Model
where
S?
was
they had Elon had contracted Fisker to do some work that fell apart.
Yeah. Famously, yeah.
And I think that's why he wanted to vertically integrate like design as he was thinking about all the manufacturing and the rest of the company, both companies, by the way. And so, that way I think he can control the message much more clearly and be, more directly involved. So that's why he brought me in and started the team. And we started clean slate, like day one, just discard.
So what was were the hard points on the vehicle fixed? Did you have a fixed
No, there's nothing fixed.
There's nothing?
There was just the idea of the battery under the floor, battery pack under the floor in the motor between the wheels, but
motor at this time it was single motor
drive unit,
from the start at the beginning. Okay, but were you protecting for
at the time? No, we just felt like single motor is the way to go.
Okay, and then all the.
But so it was really a clean slate. I mean, there was no design language that we were drawing from. I mean, it was really kind of like a moment in time where you really have, if you're a writer, you have that clean piece of paper, and you're like, where do I start? How do I start this?
What were you thinking about when you started the Model S?
Well, I think the Model S, in my perspective, we needed to convey an idea about efficiency, because at the time, there's an idea that an electric car or there's a mass or a size or like a heaviness to the whole thing that I wanted to just kind of eliminate from the conversation, and really just create a product that was attractive. That you would see it across the parking lot, like a moth to the flame. You'd be attracted to it. You want to find out more. Didn't know anything what it was, but you're curious enough to start the investigation, and then realize after the fact maybe that it's a good looking electric vehicle as well, and something that you could be proud of owning and feel good about your purchase, and see it in the driveway or on the street and feel like, wow, that's something I'm really proud of. Because I never, I talk to a lot of people that own Prius and other sustainable ideas, and they weren't necessarily like, yeah, I do it because it's sustainable. It's my only choice.
Right. It's
like, they never said anything good.
I'm
like
eating
nice
my granola.
It's beautiful. I couldn't wait to go out and get it. And I feel so proud when I roll up. It's like, no, it's a sustainable message. I feel good about that part.
Right. It's interesting. I'm just thinking about what we talked about earlier. Like you go from Volkswagen, where you're doing buses, vans, and then a Pontiac and a Saturn, and then Mazdas, and then you just very premium, almost at the time 6-figure vehicle. Like, was this like you had this pent up, like, I want to do something premium?
I mean, like, I worked on like concepts and ideas for Cadillac at GM. Mazda had premium sedan. Mazda 6 was kind of their affordable premium thing. So, the proportion wasn't unfamiliar to me.
Okay.
But was it designed from the get-go in terms of, it was clean sheet, but 7-passenger was that was part of the brief, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we kind of created a list of attributes that we wanted to include in it, and it was like, wow, 7 passengers is going to be hard, but if we approach it from kind of this innovative way of seating everybody, then it could work.
Okay.
So that this moment in 2000, I think it was 2009, when we see the public, the press sees the car for the first time, and the reactions are, it's nice looking, but obviously it's never going to happen. Tucker, you can't start a new car company. Like, are like both the team and you. Like, do you listen to any of that? Like, what do you think of our reaction, the press's reaction to what you showed?
How are you still sitting here and talking to us? I guess is what John is asking. Like,
yeah.
Well, maybe that's a different issue. Maybe we'll get to you through this conversation when we get to Model 3.
Yeah.
But no, I think I probably like sports. People that play sports or are at the top of their career, inevitably there's going to be the haters, and I think you have to learn how to filter that. Okay. And we knew we had something great. We're on a mission. We're going to do it. And sometimes that spark of negativity drives you even more. Harder.
Okay.
So
I remember
that's true. That's my secret.
Yeah, I had a teacher at school who said, "You'll never be a car designer. You should just quit now at Art Center."
Can you reach out to that teacher?
He's no longer with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to jump a little bit ahead on this. We gave, as Johnny called out, we gave Model S 2013 Car of the Year. We had a big party.
It was amazing
in New York City, right? Yes.
Well, actually, what did you think when you heard the news?
We were blown away. I think I was blown away. I mean, we felt like we were like some garage band playing on Wembley Stadium. We were a small little team. We had this amazing idea. We felt like we had created a beautiful car that people were attracted to, and I mean the recognition of it was fantastic, and it really, I think that also helped us continue to move forward, and keep, get it in public eye, get people behind us. We have a lot of people that we have to thank along the way that really help support Tesla, and the exposure and the belief behind it was invaluable. We didn't do advertising. That was kind of our version of like amazing advertising. So we were incredibly grateful, but we also believe that it deserved to be there.
Mm-hmm. Can everybody just listen to what he just said? Because Tesla does not do advertising. They didn't buy the award. Okay, for the last time. Like,
actually, can I tell a great story?
We couldn't afford it anyway.
Can I tell a great story? Our publisher, like, I remember when we got back to the office the day after, he ran in. He's like, "That car, any car but that."
Thanks a lot.
Like, he was so angry.
But
you didn't really pick that.
I do want to run just a quick story by you just to check the accuracy. So we awarded Car of the Year in the fall of 2012, 2013 MotorTrend's Car of the Year. Big party in New York. This is a story I've told a lot, which is, we just talked about, we had been fairly critical of Tesla and vaporware, but prior to like driving the car and testing the car, we're like, Angus, my mentor or predecessor had famously said, like, these Silicon Valley guys think it's so easy, they're going to learn the hard way, yada, yada, yada. But everybody in the automotive media, their opinion changed the minute they got into the car, hit the throttle, took off, and then just realized, like, holy crap, right? So we skillfully planned to have this party out in New York, which was the other side of the coast and the other side of the coin, which was get the business media out there, because none of these New York guys, none of these Wall Street Journal guys or New York City folks, they don't drive cars.
Yeah, they don't drive anyway.
They don't understand this thing.
Right. As Angus famously said, all cars are either black or yellow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you wave your hand to hail it. Right. So we do it out there, and it was a great party, big success, great photos. We got some awesome, hilarious photos we'll put on the site.
Good time.
I heard 6 months or a year afterwards from the CMO at the time, George Blankenship. He said that, Ed, like, thank you so much. That was the inflection point. Your award was like, we were kind of at the bottom of whatever opinion polls or just the narrative, like Tesla's going to fail, blah, blah, blah. Then you guys gave us the award. And then subsequently other people got into the car and the tide started to turn on what Tesla was doing. Is that accurate? Is that a fair retelling?
That feels pretty accurate, yeah.
Okay.
I think, there's plenty of naysayers and there's, people entrenched, but I think
there's an industry
still to this day, right?
Yeah, of course.
I know a guy who makes a living just bashing Tesla.
Yeah. But I think, the experience is the believing part. Like my job is to make an attractive thing that people want or are curious to find out more. They're interested in it. They can imagine like having that as an aspirational thing. They aspire to it. But really, when you get behind, you sit in the seat, you get and experience the drive of it. There's no reason for gas. You realize that.
Right.
It's kind of a transformative experience, and there's no way to communicate that. It's so hard to like just tell somebody like, this is what it's going to be like, and like, okay, whatever. It's not going to be as good as my Porsche or Aston Martin or whatever. But I think you get behind the wheel and you experience it, and you suddenly have this eureka moment. Like, the world doesn't need to be addicted to fossil fuel anymore.
Right.
And so I think that exposure and the ability for you guys to communicate it beyond the way we could, and be kind of a third party testament to that.
And I think that anecdote I told about hey, if you've said this was vaporware and you just voted for it, and it was I remember that week very well. Just everybody was like, I can't believe how good this thing is. I mean, I remember seeing the car with the body off at, I think, the New York show. You had the chassis there, and I remember I walked up to whoever was standing at the booth. I said, "Is that really what it's going to be?" He goes, yeah. And I go, that no way. That's too expensive looking. Because it was like, it looked like if you gave a really, A-level engineering student unlimited budget design a car chassis. Because it was,
That's what
huge aluminum, control arms. And it just didn't look like a production car. It looked like a high-end sports car. And I couldn't believe it was going to actually happen. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way to make money doing that. And I remember, Chris Theodore famously at the party, he's like, I get it. It's the car. He's like, I don't get the business plan, and like, I just don't get I don't know how it's going to work.
That's why it's car of the year, not business plan of the year. Right? Zing.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to run out of time if we go at this pace. But so I want to kind of flip the script, and so we can start just jumping in different cars. But
yeah.
I think it's fair to say Tesla has succeeded past the everybody said, like, there's no car company in the last 50 years that's ever been successful. Tucker was the last one to try it, blah blah blah. Right, great. It started with the Roadster. Model S, though, will go down in history as the first sort of high volume production electric vehicle.
I think really kind of allowed people to feel comfortable and like normal.
Yeah, because I think the
Over
Leaf, I think
Leaf
the
outsole,
Leaf
yes,
beat it,
yes,
but
yes, yes,
like
yes.
nobody loves the Leaf,
Right.
You know,
So I'm saying,
but
like, in
people
history, well,
love their Teslas.
The victor
Yeah.
gets to rewrite history, right?
Yeah.
But there's another layer I want to
Franz is like, yes.
I want to layer on top of it, which is actually, and this is something we're trying to sort of get going here. It's actually, the power is not that just that it's an EV, that it's a software defined vehicle, right? Because this is the thing that you guys did very early on that nobody saw coming. They're only starting to see now because every other auto manufacturer is telling me like, well, Tesla's really far ahead on this part because you guys baked in everything, every controller and sensor and chip and system is talking to it, each other.
Its own language.
And the pioneering, yes, the power move is plaid and 0 to 60 first under 3 seconds, then under 2. But the fact that you guys have been OTAing, over-the-air updating, since the start is there are car companies out there right now that sell a lot of cars. They can't do that. They cannot give you a cool new feature tomorrow.
I think what Ed's trying to say is, did you know that was an advantage?
Yes. Did you know that you guys were building this whole new category of vehicle beyond just electric? That this software. And I'm asking the design guy.
I mean, I think we knew that was like that's where electronics were going. That's kind of where our world was going with phones and everything.
Right.
And so and why does the automotive sector have to languish 10 or 15 or 20 years behind technology? I mean, it's there's a ton of technology in a car, and it should be modern. It should be up to date. It should be as modern as your phone is. There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
And so that was the perspective that we had. I mean, Model S had an iPad in it before iPad was ever a thing.
Right, exactly.
By a few months, it did. Well, and I remember, when not the first update, but one of them, our former colleague Kim Reynolds, who I remember he grabbed me at work. He goes, "You're not going to believe this." He goes, "I was driving home, and I have to lift the suspension every time I come to this bump on my street, and the car just did it suddenly." Yeah. And he's like, "I can't believe it's so smart. It's so smart. It's called geofencing."
Yeah.
And
we had the idea always since I was there that the idea that cars should learn your habits and should be able to react to the way that you drive, not you constantly having to learn the car.
But I think it goes back to what you were saying though about I love this car. I think
So Kim is effusing about something that he loves about it, right?
Yeah, but I think it's it's a premium product that still delights you with new stuff because I own an EV and every time there's an update, it's like, oh boy, what am I going to get? Yeah. Oh, look at that, it does this, and it's a real liability to car companies that don't have that because
and it's not just fun things. We're able to improve the safety and the way that the airbags trigger and the response time to be able to make the car safer for you. That's an over-the-air update.
Right.
And so you
have
an incredibly safe car. And the next day you have an even safer car. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah, and efficiency can go up, and all battery strategies, everything. So
drive dynamics,
power.
Fun games, fart machine.
Right.
Yes. Well, whoopee cushion was a huge innovation.
Well, and I talked about this a lot. That is the key. You really get the sense that Tesla is releasing fun things via OTA, and a lot of them for free. Some you can pay for, and but it's in a way that feels very genuine. Where my big fear, as other manufacturers try to replicate and copy some of this capability, especially via OTA, is that they're going to be very calculating about it, that they're going to design the whole thing but hold back features to release in year 1 and year 2 and year 3 and try to monetize them that way, which doesn't feel sort of authentic to the surprise and delight that Tesla's been sort of famous for.
In-app purchasing is always kind of
right.
I have kids and I feel it.
Right, exactly.
My wife's very into that. All right, well, let's jump way ahead to Cybertruck.
You want to skip that fast?
Yeah, let's go to Cybertruck because we just got 75 minutes.
All right.
Yeah, and this is a big one. This is a big one.
We'll circle back to a few.
And Franz, you're wearing the shirt. I recognize the shirt.
I do too.
This is the cannonball you threw at the glass that shattered it. But tell us about such a radical departure from everything and from Tesla's design. How'd you get to Cybertruck?
I mean, Cybertruck was an idea that Elon and I spoke about for a while. We wanted to do a pickup we had these ideas on how to make an efficient pickup and to really kind of peel back the onion on like why is a pickup the way it is. Kind of step back to a first principles perspective of like what it is that people want, and look at a couple of core attributes. And we just said, a pickup, we can make a pickup that drives like a sports car and has the utility of any truck out there, and combine that into something new that people haven't seen, and put the toughness on the outside where it belongs, and the dynamic experience and all the functionality you would expect inside the car. And in kind of doing that, like putting the toughness on the outside was, okay, like how are we actually going to do that? Because paint on the exterior of a car is like the most delicate thing. And it seems odd that you'd have, built tough, but really fragile, like an eggshell kind of thing on the outside of your truck. So we just started looking at what are tough materials, and I think we had a couple different directions, but stainless steel was one of them. Elon had gotten really familiar with it on the rockets, and we said, hey, that's pretty damn tough and it's durable. There's a few other examples in history that show like you can those cars are still driving around and they look great. DeLorean. And you also don't need paint. And paint is a tough one because not only is it fragile, but it's not it's a expensive capital investment into a factory.
Right, the paint shop is much more intensive.
Consumes
than
a lot of energy.
Right,
environmentally,
environmental VOCs.
Right.
So if you can reduce paint from the process and still make something attractive, then that's also a great step in a sustainability mission. So we thought, like, let's use this, some of these materials, and in using stainless steel, it becomes a challenge because you can't do traditional stamping.
Right.
And if it's going to be tough, it's got to be thicker than you can stamp. So form factor very quickly came into how do you deal with this material and create single bends, no compound surface or forms, and kind of a geometry evolved out of that, which became this really kind of simplistic shape of what the Cybertruck is.
And did you like the first time, like obviously it showed up as a sketch, but the first time like people who weren't involved in the conversations you were having saw it, like how did like internally were people reacting to it? Like this is...
I mean, I saw your face when you came in the studio.
That was us you're talking about, like when we
but I mean even just other people at Tesla, like what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah,
because it's radical. I mean, it's
it is super radical. It's polarizing.
Yes, very.
I think in sometimes in polarization, you can say, well, are we really, capturing the biggest audience? Because you could alienate as many people as you bring along for the ride. So
plus minus.
Yeah, but is it is it the right thing to do if Tesla's getting into this market? Shouldn't they just do a killer pickup truck? And the thing that I thought and that we had was just something, no other brand is going to do it. Like, it's pretty clear.
They can't. Right?
And I mean, they could, but they won't.
Right.
And, we were able to take, the concept in this kind of radical form, but have all the functionality and the performance like we set out from the beginning into a truck that, it looks different. And what we've found is fascinating, I think, is that it's drawing people to the product that would never dream of buying a truck. It's just a radical new thing.
I had that. I mean, I put down a deposit when I saw it because I was just like, you know what? It's so different. I would just like to have a car that's that different. Yeah.
So is that an example of? There's a lot of talk about Elon kind of being a guru of or a follower of first principle approach, right? So you went after Cybertruck for toughness, so you pick stainless. Also, one of the first principles that it does reduce cost. It does reduce complexity too, right? Because then you don't have to. Your order banks are not filled with.
Your body shop is different, like in the manufacturing process is different. And we wanted to create an exoskeleton and really put the toughness on the outside. So it's, the stainless is bulletproof. Really kind of a demonstration of how tough it is.
Does that for you? That must be even within the other vehicles you've designed at Tesla. That puts the the sketching, the drawing, the conceptualization, like third or fourth priority. Right? It's almost like these are. Is that true or no? These are the parameters.
Because we still had to work around like the like you said, the parameters and things, and you're still putting people in it. We still had to create the functionality. It needs a bed. We wanted to have a bed that was usable and big, and with the Tanu, it closes off. The shape is actually quite aerodynamic. It's arguably more aerodynamic than a normal pickup truck. The Cybertruck is. So
okay.
There's some efficiencies that come into it as well, and it has like. There's a kind of a brutal kind of stance that's tough and rugged looking.
I'm a big fan of brutalism, and it definitely looks like,
And, and the interiors of our cars, there's a minimalism that you get. The truck has a minimalist feel. It's just kind of a vibe I've been pushing.
Right.
So what's
where are
the
we
hold
with it?
up?
Yeah.
what's
the latest? What can you tell us about?
I mean, it's coming. I just drove one 2 days ago.
I think the latest our business reporter Lisa said Elon said volume production in 2024.
Yeah.
Okay. We saw this thing now 4 years ago.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest changes? We've seen some spy photos rolling around. We see there's now a windshield wiper. Are there any other things you can tell us that have like any major changes that we might not have seen or we can't tell just by looking at spy photos on the internet?
Nothing that I can give away, but I think you can. It's true to the original concept, if not better.
Is it smaller than?
It's potentially slightly smaller, yeah.
Because the concept I saw it was at the Art Center show.
Yeah,
and it's
you
massive.
can see actually, Peterson is doing an amazing exhibit. So it's there as well.
But it's massive.
The one there is.
It's actually not. It's not. It's massive, perhaps in kind of. In isolation.
Okay.
But even the prototype was the exact same length as an F-150.
Yeah, well, yeah,
So
but the F-150 is massive.
Right, but it's the size of pickup trucks that
right.
That's where we are with pickups.
It's the size of the
utility
vehicle.
With
but you always
utility, in the back and a cabin for 4 or 5 or 6 people.
Right. So you wanted to benchmark the size of the current truck market?
We knew that size is the functionality and kind of the requirements that were going to be right for this vehicle. Yeah.
Okay.
It has to have a comfortable interior. It has to have the functionality of the bed. It has to be able to have off-roading capabilities. High suspension travel. All those things. So,
have you? In the time that since showing the original concept and now there's 4 electric trucks on the market. There's the Hummer, there's the Rivian R1T, there is the Ford F-150 Lightning. Theoretically, there's a Lordstown. I'm not sure if you can buy one yet.
Yeah, there's Chevy's coming.
Have you spent the time benchmarking or
yeah, we're looking at all those. Yeah, and I think they're honestly they're good.
Yeah,
I don't have anything bad to say about any of them. I think what's great is that potentially maybe we've helped propel them into the marketplace sooner than they would have been. Just because we said we're doing a truck, we showed something, and ultimately that's kind of the bigger mission that we all need to be moving towards is a more sustainable future. So we can't do it alone, but having these guys come along and changing the industry helps the overall mission. So it's great.
Well, so we've given our Truck of the Year award first to the Rivian R1T in 2022 and then F-150 Lightning this year for 2023. And we have been annihilated by commenters, mostly on Instagram and Facebook, for a couple of things regarding EV truck performance specifically.
And Twitter.
One is towing performance, how the range is decimated when you attach a trailer, and then cold weather performance. Are these things?
The range is halved, not decimated.
Decimated, well, half is plenty for most people. But I imagine you guys certainly know about cold weather performance. But in the context of a work truck, it seems to be like I've never seen the volume of sort of vitriol about this decision because we kind of talked about this a little bit before you got on.
With the F-150 specifically.
Like now we're getting past where we're talking about the mass adoption
Sure.
of EVs, and we're, the people that have purchased a Roadster all the way back when, or in 2012 or 2013, a Model S. These people, I think, had a certain level of patience and understanding about new technology. Now, as we're getting into people's like driveways, like in the Midwest, in the heartland of the country,
Sure.
with a pickup truck, you have any concerns that you're going to have a truck that's very different from a traditional sort of whatever two-box sort of look, and now you're coming after things like tough and work. You have any concerns that this might go the other way and maybe,
No, because I think that even on the range side, we're going to be in a good position.
Okay.
Without giving away any of the details.
Like how good? How good? What percentage of
Give
good?
away one detail.
I think the other thing that is somewhat not talked about that much, but it's right there, and it's a huge part of purchase decision is the supercharging network.
Yes.
Well, I've said for a long time that's the smartest thing you guys ever did.
Yeah, and I think that the other brands don't yet have a reliable high-speed charging network that is, like I said, reliable.
Well aware, and it's getting worse. That's what's
well,
crazy.
we're continuing to populate more and more superchargers, and I think
Well,
that was
yeah.
early problem of gasoline cars, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't enough gas stations around, and once there was, then popularity continued to rise.
Are you doing pull-through chargers for EV truck owners who want to?
Maybe.
You're good at this.
Just say
you've been well coached.
Yeah, it's a long history. To it.
We don't have coaches, by the way.
Right, yeah.
Well, I know you got rid of the PR team. We're well aware.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this, because I got there's obviously you have a controversial boss, and the company has a lot of the company has a lot of controversy. But like, how do you when you hear a decision like, okay, we're getting rid of the PR team,
we never really had one. We had a few PR folks, but it wasn't. I wouldn't call it a team, and I don't know.
Okay.
It's. I think we want to put our products out in front, and sometimes the media can get all spun up about things that are not great for the overall mission. So we just let our products speak for themselves.
Like, what give you an example of something where the media?
We do content. We try to put out content that really helps explain, what we're doing, helps you feel more comfortable with the car, teaches you things about it, helps people get attracted to or learn things that helps them get maybe over the hurdle of buying an electric car. And I think that's the most important part.
But could you give us an example of what you consider the media gets spun up about that you think is hurting the overall mission? Like, give us something.
Well, I mean, look at just all the articles that are saying that the electric cars are stupid. They'll never make it. They're not a thing. Don't waste your time.
Right.
Big waste of energy. That's been the past I don't know, as long as I've been at Tesla.
Right.
Still kind of, out there a bit, but the tide is turning. And I think
in some ways, but there's so much, I spent a lot of time doing this. There's so much disinformation about lithium mining is somehow horrible, totally ignoring the fact that oil extraction is a brutal, awful,
there's just a
What
lot
about
of clickbait stuff that isn't necessarily true, right? And
Right.
that's the hard part. That just doesn't help anybody.
Right.
Okay.
Trying to get a big story over something that's nothing. It's kind of like when it rains in LA. It's all over the news.
Right.
Well, let's just boredom on the part of the weathermen. They have nothing else to talk about.
Right. They get.
I want to bring it slightly back to the actual product. One question to piss off Johnny.
Yeah.
You got to Tesla because you believe in the mission of sustainability, and everybody needs to move towards electrification, reduced dependency on oil and carbon emissions, all that stuff, right? You can love it if you told us how much horsepower and torque the Cybertruck is going to come out with, but I savage this guy routinely because I think I love the Rivian. I love how it drives.
I bought a Rivian.
I don't think it needs 835
It needs
horsepower
1,200 horsepower.
and 900. I think I'd be super happy with obviously more range, and they're not equatable. But do you need vehicles to be this powerful. Do we need a Plaid that goes 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds? Like, is this solving the world's problem?
Well, I think it's a technology kind of showcase, and it proves that electric cars are better than anything else out there, right? And it just shows that you can kind of outperform anything. Like a Model S, especially for the price point, is for a while was the fastest production car on the
period.
Yeah, quickest. Yeah.
You could buy.
Yeah.
And the next thing was like you could own a stable of Model S's in every color, and then some. Give some to your friends for the price of the next fastest car.
Yeah.
And that's kind of crazy, and that's normally aspirated. So I think the technology is proving that. I think I don't know. It feels like humanity is always trying to go faster. Like since the dawn of whatever, we figured out how to get on a horse and go faster than running, and it's perpetual. We're always gonna there's racing. Like why do people race?
Because there was 2 cars. When there was 1 car, you didn't need to race. When there was 2, you had to race them.
Right. But why is racing popular?
It's just human nature. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And every year the cars get faster and faster and faster. It's just the challenge of the limit of physics, I think, and getting there. And I think we're right on that cusp.
That doesn't matter to a the speed factor doesn't matter to a Cybertruck owner, right?
Well, in relation to a Cybertruck, I think the things that are important are torque and power and capability and transferring that torque to the ground so you can haul the stump out, or you can pull a trailer, or you can do all those things.
Or I've
a truck is it's like a Swiss Army knife.
Multi-tool. Right.
Has to be able to do anything, and you have to be able to have a product that you're going to put it in a situation that we never dreamed of, but it has to be able to survive and do what you want it to do.
And for trucks, huge torque is great for towing, and it's awesome electrically. Electric vehicles for off-roading, like having all the torque you need just on throttle tip-in is a
precision.
Huge game changer over having like a TRX. It's cool. It makes a lot of torque at 3,500 RPM, and then you get constantly slamming on the brakes.
Yeah, but
it's very inelegant.
100% torque at 0 to wherever.
Yeah.
Like in a Plaid, it's just 0 until you run out of RPMs.
Right.
It's 100% torque. Yeah. And that's amazing. Like the carbon overwrap sleeve on that motor allows that. Right. There's no fall off of power.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep bouncing around because I feel like I have so many more questions to ask.
Yeah, let's get some of the questions.
So one of the things, again, we keep going to Model S. We skipped over 3 and Y, but that's fine.
And X, we really skipped over X.
Yes, you guys have been, but on Model S now is 10 years old as a production car. 2013 to 2023. We've seen the interior update. You've added a yoke-style steering wheel. You've turned the screen now to a horizontal layout. You've done a lot of stuff under the skin, but overall, the body hasn't changed. When would we see, or do we need to see, are you guys totally changing the way vehicles are updated, right? Traditional cycle is you do
8 years.
You do like a major model, facelift 4 years in, another 4 years go by, and then you do a whole new generation. We're now 10 years in. Like, you see where I'm going? Like, what is Tesla doing when it comes to updating, doing major next generation vehicles?
We just updated the Model S, but the interior and the exterior got to refresh the new lights and new fascias, and the car looks, again, I think, clean and modern and of its time. It's it's become a timeless design. I think it still looks fresh and good on the road, and people are still attracted to it. And there's a little bit of, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And we also have we're not traditionalists. We don't look at cycles because everybody else does cycles. It doesn't. Right. What's right for us and our customers, and we're just want to constantly improve. So there's constant improvement that's happening through the course of the life of the Model S, and we don't wait to bundle that into something. As soon as we can get it into a customer's hands, we want to get it there.
Right, and you've done that with the motors and the batteries.
Yeah. Over-the-air updates continually make your car feel fresh and new as well.
But there's no business case because I have heard from not even early adopters, folks who maybe got it on a lease, who are like, yeah, now I'm kind of bored of it, and they haven't changed it, and I'm going to switch to a Taycan now because my neighbor now there's 4 Model S's in my neighborhood and they all look the same. There is no sort of marketing or business research that indicates, gosh, we should probably change.
There's got to be diminishing returns on a design. You can update it, but if it unless 911. Okay.
The more successful you are, right? The more this is we started the conversation with Johnny seeing all the California freeways are flooded with Model 3s and Model Ys.
Insane, yeah.
So at some point,
and
people
X's.
Are like, I just don't want to be driving the same thing as everybody else. Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, or you take a less safe, more inferior car as your option. I don't know.
Well,
if you have kids,
Yeah.
like, or just you care for your, well-being, any Tesla is the safest car on the road. Like, how do you reconcile that?
Look, Mercedes and Volvo could argue against that pretty.
But probability of injury, and it's proven not by us but by other standards, and it's very public that the Teslas are the safest cars on the road. So. It's just an argument. I'm just saying.
Okay.
We can.
But
That's a very thoughtful argument.
I understand your question.
But I mean, you're a business, right? So it's you're
Yeah.
at massive success. Your sales keep going up. Most valuable car company in history. I know all that, but I'm just saying, human nature.
You want to know when we're going to do new things, and I can't tell you.
I'm okay.
I'm just saying, do you need to? Like, should we just stop expecting that you're going to do there's going to be some massive...
No,
because to be clear, I love the Model S design.
We will constantly continue to improve it. So, yes, but, if I say something, then people are going to...
No, I know, but I guess Ed, I think we're asking, is it a B-52? Is it going to be a production for, 100 years? Or...
I don't know. You can wait and see.
Well, yeah,
that's cagey. All right.
It is one of the most timeless, beautiful designs. And I'm not like sucking up because the guy's here. But from the rear 3/4, especially the high performance models, the Plaid with the fat rear tire that goes right up against the fender well, it is gorgeous. I can agree that doesn't need a lot changed. It's a bigger sort of philosophical question. Tesla's changed the game when it comes to vehicles overall with EVs, with software-defined vehicles now, and now they're sort of blowing up this idea that you need to replace a vehicle or make a major body change. Because I can argue the business side too, which is you guys have all the castings, the mega cast. You have the ability. Why change it? That's expensive, and if it's a timeless design, you don't need to, and that saves you money.
Well,
you can pass it on. So I get it.
Another thing to think about is, we're kind of on the cusp of full autonomy in driverless cars, right? So,
are we though?
It's kind of around the corner. It's right there.
Well, what does that have to do with changing?
Because it's going to change the way that we interact with vehicles.
So you're saying that fresh new designs won't be as important since you're not.
No, they will be.
Okay.
But there's going to be a new dynamic that's kind of put into the purchase decision or the way that you're using transportation.
Buy it for another reason other than it looks good or it's got these fun things.
I mean, I think we talk about this a lot on the show. Is that once you do have full autonomy, like you don't necessarily cars don't need to be the same layout. They can radically change where people sit and that kind of thing. Do you need a steering wheel? So then, obviously, then you wouldn't need traditional cars. You'd need something else. So,
and I think it's a space that you want to be comfortable in. You want to be safe in, and it needs to get you from A to B still. And you still want to step out of something that you feel confident and attractive in.
Right. We just got a 100-minute warning.
Oh, that's
so. You promised because we moved the date that there might be something some special bonus thing that could be chatted about. So I'll just ask you if there's anything you want to divulge or tell us at this point.
Well, I wanted to drive a certain vehicle here, but we didn't make it happen. So I apologize.
Is it made of stainless steel?
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So, and I know the answer to this question already, but I have to ask, otherwise my team's going to grill me. You've done you've done S3, X, Y, Cybertruck, Semi, shown the new Roadster. All sorts of questions about when that one's coming. But there's a theory that the next would be a small consumer grade affordable vehicle. Is there anything you can tell us about that, when it might show up, truth at all, or?
Sorry, I wish I could tell you. We're working on some amazing projects in
like
our
what?
studio, and
New phone? It's like are we doing something cool? Like an airplane? Robots? Like
it's transportation related.
Okay. You want? I'd just love to hear just a couple sentences on like how mind scrambling it was for you to design a Semi. Like that must have been a kick in the pants, right?
Actually, Semi was an amazing experience, I think, going through the process of designing it, but also looking at this product and how just the same it's been over the years, in a similar way to like Cybertruck, right? And how creative we could be with changing the platform. So no longer do you have a big hunk of iron and steel in front of you and a transmission and everything running through the middle of the truck. We had an opportunity to just really transform the overall cabin space of that thing and put the driver in the middle, because you never could be able to do that with a normally aspirated truck, and give them a command perspective. They're sitting more over the front wheels now. It's a very aerodynamic situation. We're bringing in self-driving and autonomy to that. So, and reducing the stress on like breathing fumes, the vibrations, the noise, and just creating an office environment in a cab where you can stand up and have multiple people in the cab actually, and just like I said, a command perspective of the road. And it's just so radically different than what the truck industry and what truck drivers are just like take for granted. And I think the ability to improve, somebody's livelihood, that's like I said, it's their office and in that profession, and make that significantly better. Not just like change some materials and move some knobs and buttons around, but like radically rethink it. It was an amazing experience, and I think the results are, and the testament to the drivers that are out there driving the trucks, it's transformative.
What are they saying? Because I know nothing about truckings, but like what are the drivers saying?
Well, you must have not known a whole lot about how did
never
you
design a semi truck cab before.
How'd you do that? Did you bring people in to like give you feedback?
Yeah, we talked to people. We like went and drove in and looked at and went to truck stops and like just tried to learn, be a sponge on what works, what doesn't. But then also just like, again, first principles, peeling back that thing and saying like, it doesn't have to be that way because that's the way everybody else is doing it. Let's make it the way that it could be, because we have all these opportunities. And now you have this kind of driving experience, this office space, which is comfortable. It's in like ergonomically, everything is in reach. It's easy to use, and you can stand in it during a rainy day or whatever. And it's radically different. Did you
design the Semi? Did you protect it for full autonomy, like Logan, the Wolverine movie, where the trucks are just driving themselves?
I mean, I think we even debuted the kind of train concept where you could have a driver in the front and then just piggyback a bunch of semis behind it, and we'll bring our full self-driving, gear to the truck as well. And
so what do the drivers make of it? What are they telling you?
I mean, I was just speaking with a driver yesterday, 2 days ago, and he's like, I can't go back to another truck. I can't go back to normally aspirated. It doesn't make sense. It's like totally changed my career, or my like the way I go to work, and how I work. It's just, we have to abide by all the safety regulations and everything that truckers need to do. But he's just said it's significantly better. He feels safer in it. He feels healthier in it. Just knows that he's doing something better for the planet by driving it. I don't know.
I just want to come back to that question I asked about a fully autonomous semi truck. So, but in the design, I was saying, Do you design? Is there a version of this that has not just no steering wheel, let's say, no seat, no cat? I mean, theoretically,
no human.
You could
there.
shift the whole thing
Yeah.
back, and then the truck itself doesn't need to be it doesn't need to have the whole front section.
Right. The cab is also like tuned aerodynamically, super efficient. So the aerodynamics played a huge role. I mean, we have aerodynamicists in our team, in our design team, and they're involved on a daily basis. They're as much a designer as we are designers.
You have to with an EV, right?
I mean, I think you could in any vehicle, but because you're just moving an object through the air, and you want to do it as efficiently as possible, and you want to have the right lift balance, the right downforce, the right aero efficiency overall, and a truck is moving a brick basically. It's a box behind it,
Right.
So having something on the front end that really helps manage the efficiency, just obviously makes the truck more affordable. We have less batteries to go the range, so.
Right. I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
I mean, I was going to just say any Roadster update.
It's coming.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it coming soon? Far?
Define soon.
I cannot comment on future plans. Right? Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you are basically the last man standing along with Elon from sort of that original executive team, if you go all the way back to when you started, right? There's been a lot of JB Straubel's off doing Redwood Materials. You've CMO departed a long time ago. You have various Guillaume. All these other guys have sort of gone. And that's correct, right? It's kind of like you and
Yeah, I never really
Elon.
thought about it, but I guess that's right. Yeah.
Why are you still around? Like, why don't you cash out and go and put your feet up in Malibu and like what's next, or like are you, is there
We have there's so much cool stuff that we're working on that I obviously can't tell you about. There's the mission isn't complete yet.
Okay.
And I think I just believe in the things that we're working on will continue to be, like I said, transformative in transportation to people's lives and enriching our lives and help us get to a more sustainable future. And yeah, I just don't feel like the job is done yet.
How were you able to stay so long?
I have no idea. 15 years is like 150 years, I think.
Right.
Right.
Wow, it is
I have a
15
lot of
years.
gray hair now.
No.
Wait. 2000.
It'll be. It's 15 years this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Wow.
Well, actually, that's spawned I had my last question actually, and you can just answer this now. Was will you please come back, because we obviously didn't cover like a huge chunk of your time.
Yeah,
at Tesla.
I could do an hour on Model X. I have so many thoughts.
Yeah,
and
let's
questions.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do it. I mean, the products are amazing, right? You guys have been in several, many
Historic.
Many of them.
I mean, let's forget amazing. Like, I mean, you guys have actually changed an industry, which is.
But you see, like, you need to get in it and experience it to really feel that kind of transformative character. Like, I could say as much as I can, but you won't believe me until you actually experience it. And I think, that's the power of something really.
But I've seen it, like I said, like not just I've seen it change the industry. Like I remember sitting with Durheimer, who was at the time he'd left Bentley. He was at Audi, and we were at the Geneva show, and I said, hey, Force Spring Third Technic, have you going electric? Have you driven a Model S? And he kind of offhanded, he's like, yes, I did drive a Tesla. That's a very impressive product. And he said something like it's going to change things at Audi. And he got in trouble for that comment because everybody was, Durheimer said, and he was out like not long after that. But I've seen it like, that car and the other subsequent cars, but that car in particular changed this industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
which is
pretty
wild.
Clear that the industry wouldn't be where it is right now in terms of the EV push if we weren't doing what we were doing.
Yeah, no, this is the like you got to put airbags in cars. Oh, it's gonna bankrupt us. You gotta like door beams. You got to have a catalytic converter. Oh, we're going out of business if we do that.
I would agree. I agree with the statement, but what I will say is that I actually think the mind shift for a lot of the big OEMs happened a lot later than I thought. Like,
Yes.
surprisingly,
Yeah, surprising it took so long. I mean,
Yes.
we knew we had something good, and when you drive the car, it's just like, why would you ever go
I mean,
back?
I think it had a lot to do with the price of lithium. Honestly, like it was just.
I think they did. I think no. I really think it was the sales volume. They did not believe until Tesla started to overtake major brands, and then it was like things fell. Like when they just outsold all the luxury brands in California. Then it was like
I also don't. I don't know that anybody's really figured out how to create a business plan where it's a profitable enterprise. You know, like we figured out how to make generally affordable electric vehicles that are a joy to drive and something you aspire to, and great to look at, and just all the things you would expect in transportation, a lot more. We're giving you a lot more. And I don't know that anybody's got that recipe yet that and made it profitable.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying with the price of lithium. I think there was a time when it was just expensive, more expensive to make an But you know what I mean? Say it was way expensive to make an EV just because of the lithium, and that's just dropped so much over the last decade that if you really get rid of like everything that goes into a conventional powertrain. It's actually cheaper to make an EV than it is to make a gas-powered car because there's no transmissions, there's no blah 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 blah. Right. So I think that was you have a lot of accountants looking at business plans, and I think that was part of it. And I definitely think that until suddenly Tesla outsold BMW in the U.S. Then it's like whoa, like there's a lot of converging factors, and also
I think there are like Elon is passionate and driven and motivated, and I don't know that I don't feel that from other leaders of other manufacturers necessarily,
right.
to the degree.
Okay.
And he he's created a recipe that works, and it's special. I don't see that same kind of recipe anywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
No. Okay, this will be my absolute last question.
It's got an agenda.
I'm very curious because I know you're not just the head of design or design director at Tesla. You wear many hats. Everybody is asked to do like QA, QC, like actually drive the vehicles, do the testing and stuff, right? So, as the last question, what is the average day like for Franz von Holzhausen? What time do you get up? What do you go in the office?
Gotta get my kids to school, so it starts after that.
Was like drop off at like 8 o'clock?
Drop off at 8, yeah. And then we're the studio's in Hawthorne, next to SpaceX.
And you live out on the coast. Where are you at?
Yeah, on the west side.
On the west side. So you got to cross town, hands off the wheel. Right?
Yeah.
You take the 10. What do you take?
405.
Okay.
105.
Okay. And show up at.
Well, it depends. I mean, I might be up north. I might be out delivering a car to a customer. Might be.
Really? Come on.
Yeah.
You do customer deliveries?
Sure.
Oh, all right.
I mean, it's a great way to like either interact with a new customer or just see like what we've created and the joy of like somebody receiving it and getting it for the first time, and just seeing that emotion is amazing. And I think it's it's good to be out and speaking with a customer base like directly, not through some channels.
No, that's great.
Because inevitably they have they have questions, they have ideas, and if we can learn from our customers how to make our product better, then I want to do that, and as fast as possible.
Okay. Will you spend any time drawing these days?
Yeah.
You do
Try to. It's hard, but yeah, try to.
Sculpt? You do clay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much of your day is meetings, Zooms, meetings versus?
A lot.
Okay.
I mean, we have a lot going on. We're super busy. We built a great team over the years. I'm super proud of the team and what they can do. So, I don't know.
Do you split more time down in Hawthorne, or Tesla Design's here, but you go to the other? You go to what, Palo Alto or?
Yeah, Palo Alto, the factories, Austin, kind of around everywhere. So there's no normal day.
Okay.
It's 6 days.
It's Tesla. There's nothing normal.
5 days a week, 6 days, 7 days. Are you 7? Would you say you're 7 days a week or 6
Can
days?
be, yeah.
And then you go to bed at what time?
I'm a night owl. I don't know, like midnight.
Do anything for fun?
Learning. I don't know if anybody knows. Trying to figure out how to play guitar.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Learning that.
That's good.
All right. On that note,
yeah, we can do that. We can do it on that note.
we'll go on that note.
I can keep going, but yeah.
Yeah, we can go for literally forever.
We got to leave some questions for when he comes
Yeah,
back.
round 2, right?
Thank
Yeah.
you so
Yeah,
much
thanks
for
so much.
coming.
Yeah.
This is, I
Thanks
think,
for
now
having
the
me.
longest one. It might
up
be.
there.
It's up there.
We'll edit out half of it. Right?
No. Please no.
Well, tell us. Give us something.
You disclosed nothing, so we have failed.
Yeah,
you have won. But thank you so much, Franz von Holzhausen, for coming in and chatting with us on the InEVitable.
Thanks, guys. It's been fun.